of whatever time we're in. So the 1979 and all the contents therein is sort of like the fifth Beatle of the movie in a way. And for me, it's not just like the punk scene or whatever was incorporated. It's sort of like the 1979 emotional accuracy, or like what are the interior concerns, what are the thoughts and feelings and predilections that go on then. That was really hard and interesting to try to research and place in the film, like the interior part.
Well, it's particularly when you get into the fact that Annette's character is a child with depression, which is something that seems completely far away, if not unknown to a lot of people who have no contact with it.
Annette's character, Dorothea, is based a lot on my mom, who was born in 25, and I know a lot about the depression. I was told about it frequently. So, but Annette and I did an interesting thing. So, she's based on, this character is based on my mom. My mom is very much a mystery to her, and that time is a mystery to me. I'm born in '66. It's a huge generation gap, which is sort of what the movie's about in a way. So we watched a lot of old movies and like 1937 Stage Door, just Bogart films, and it really helped me figure out my mom's way of responding to things, and all the really subversive, strong, funny women in those films from the 30s and 40s.
So for the four members of the cast present, key members of the cast, we have two people who lived through 1979 and two who didn't. So it's a very different kind of connection to the role, maybe. Maybe if you guys could, yeah. Just a guess. Did it help orient you guys to be looking at older movies, for instance, and in terms of your relationships with the different characters? Or how did you? What did you do? Like you screened movies and you.
Well, that's more me and Nat sort of in our exchanges back and forth. We showed the kids.
The kids.
We got this great bunch of documentaries on the 70s that we handed to you all, but we didn't. It was more like conversations we had.
Yeah, because Mike gave me. I think that this was kind of just for Julie, particularly the Road Less Traveled. That it's a book from the 70s. It was like kind of a psychiatrist like therapy of love book, and it was but the things that it said in there it was like the love and sex chapter, which was like would be Julie's favorite. She would love that one. So I would, Mike asked me to read that and pick out anything that I, as Elle, found interesting, or anything that I thought that Julie would find interesting, or and then it would kind of be like homework in a way where I'd take that in, and then the next day he'd be like, okay, now explain what you read last night to Jamie, and that would be the scene. So I'd have my notes and be like, and stuff would be crazy in there, like, marriage isn't real, or, you should have open relationship. Like, it was just like real kind of but stuff that Julie would abide, be like, those are her, rules of life. So that was something.
So when Julie, Elle, whoever she is, talks about love and marriage in the movie, when we came to those scenes, I'd be like, okay, Elle, now just do your Road Less Traveled thing. Yeah. And she'd be like, oh shit, and she'd come back to just sort of come up with Julie's interpretation of what she read. I love that we had that little process going like that.
Lucas, did you have reading assignments too?
Yes, he actually sent me a whole box full of USB drives and books, and sent me some documentaries to watch, specifically the 70s, the CNN documentary. He also sent me this book called The Cultural Dictionary of Punk, which I found super helpful because as a teenager myself, I really do understand the struggles that come along with being a teenager, but like you were saying, it's different emotionally too in the time. So one thing I didn't identify with yet was the more self-destructive, the more destructive side of punk, that I didn't necessarily understand as much as I wanted to. So I think definitely watching that documentary, understanding why people did these things, and really every time they made a pop culture reference, just looking up the Cultural Dictionary of Punk, pausing and being like, okay, what does this mean? And I think that definitely that gave me a much better understanding of like the emotional state in that time period.
So Annette and Billy, I just sort of like to get you guys to chime in on how you placed yourselves, your characters within that time. I mean, I must say that that's where the ring of familiarity really hit me hard, because I knew a lot of people like your characters.
Well, I grew a mustache when I was there.
So that, yeah,
Kinda, it's mostly facial hair for me. I'm glad you read books and stuff.
you didn't watch it.
You know, that stuff, that time is very familiar to me. That was, I was 10, 11, 12, a very formative, you know, period to be going into puberty, seeing adults around you relate to the world in a different way. So all of those things, they have a romantic, you know, tint to them for me. So it was hard in some ways to not idealize it and try to live in that experience as an adult too, who was kind of recovering from the 60s. So I found it fascinating to sort of play my parents during that time, because they were probably about the same age that I was. The end.
Annette? When we were talking on our way in, we were saying that you and I both had different kinds of moms.
Oh, right.
But
Right, so I was 19, right? Is that the math? Yeah, I was 19 in 1979. So when I read the script, that was my, as an audience member, which is always the most, I guess it's the most important read that you have of a script, right? The first time you read it, because you don't know what's going to happen. Just anyway, I very much was fascinated by the world, because not only that, but I grew up in San Diego, which is very close to Santa Barbara. My world was a different world than this world that I grew up in, but the time was the same. So that was, I loved the script, because I thought it contextualized that period for me in a way that I had never seen. So that's aside from acting in it or anything, but just to read it, to read what Mike had put together, and the images, as well as the cogent lines every now and then in this film. There's something that he's written that pops out that is just, for me, it just smacks me in the head. Like, that's so smart and hasn't really been said before. And so that was thrilling to be able to be a part of that. Yeah.